So how do you become an instructional designer? This is a question I get asked often, all the time. I see it posted in different forums. I get called, and asked about this. So let me tell you a little bit about my background, how you become an instructional designer, and how you really get into the field. So first of all, about me. So I got into the field with a master's degree. So I got a master's degree and I went out and worked for a number of years in corporate before getting my doctorate. And now I'm a professor in a master's program, at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. So I'm now on the other end watching students go through and get jobs. And I also run a consulting firm. So I'm interviewing people all the time and getting people to work. So I'm seeing all kinds of different angles of the field. So let me tell you how to get into the field, how people get into the field, and some different ways to get into the field. So first of all, the most sure way to get into the field and be successful is to go to a very good master's program. What do I mean by a very good master's program? I mean a master's program where there are full-time faculty, where you're going to do internships and work with multiple clients. So that you leave that master's program with strong competencies, the knowledge in the field, and you have work experience from the internships, client experiences. I put my students through like 3 to 4 actual projects, consulting projects, before they're done with their master's. So they're leaving with experience and the degree. That's the easiest way, and maybe it doesn't sound easy because it's a boatload of work, but that is the most sure way to get into the field and have a successful career in instructional design. Now I get a lot of people all the time. Sometimes I'll do an interview with someone that has no degree, maybe, and they have 5 to 10 years of instructional design experience, and they interview for a position for me. And sometimes they can't answer a lot of basic questions of the field. Why? Because they never had that foundation, that base. They never got those competencies anywhere, and they were hired as an instructional designer. So why does that happen, and how do you solve that? And how do you know if that's you? So first of all, what happens is, instructional design can mean different things to different people. Some people think instructional design means, developing a bunch of PowerPoint or Articulate slides over and over again, that someone gave you some content and you're just sitting there plugging them into a computer and writing them out. That's a developer. But that's an instructional designer does a lot more than that. So some people are hired as that, and they're doing this. Maybe they're a technical writer, or they are a teacher, or fields that are related to bits and pieces of instructional design, but aren't necessarily instructional design. And they want to make the jump in the field. They might already have a master's degree in another field. They don't want to get another, and they're like, "Well, can't I just go and do this?" You might be able to get a job as an instructional designer. The issue with doing that is that you don't know what you don't know. So what happens is I get these people that might come in with 5 to 10 years of experience. Looks like they were very successful at a company they were at. They cannot answer basic instructional design questions for me. If you can't answer basic questions, I don't think you're going to be a good instructional designer. Now, they might have been successful at the company they were at because they weren't really doing what an instructional designer, everything that an instructional designer needs. And the people observing, and there might not have been evaluations to really know that what they were doing was really successful. So there are all kinds of issues with that, different things that can happen. The problem is people don't know what they don't know. So, when I come into an interview, I expect you to know basic things. Like, you can, I'll just read this and you can look at my screen. For those of you listening, you can I'll tell you what it is. But can you tell me about performance analysis and what you do? How do you determine if training is the problem? Tell me about some different instructional design models that you use, some different versions of ADDIE. What models are you aware of and do you use for different situations? Can you tell me, let me give you a situation and you tell me when you would use X, what model you would use in that situation. Tell me, how do you do a gap analysis and what's a needs analysis and what's the purpose of it? How do you design? Tell me about some organizational strategies for a course. Tell me about some delivery strategies for a course. Tell me about some development strategies for a course. Like, do you know what the multimedia principles are and stuff like that? Can you tell me about several, evaluation? What are some different evaluation models out there? I know everyone's going to mention Kirkpatrick's, right? Well, how do you develop key questions based on Kirkpatrick's model? Can you tell me that? do you understand the basics of evaluation? Because evaluation isn't just a model. A model just guides your key questions, right? So can you tell me some of the basic things like that? Because this will help me know right away, within 5 minutes, if you know what you're talking about, if you know what instructional design is. You can't just jump into it and not know anything. It's just like me, trying to hire someone as a doctor and saying, well, I've had colds before. I know what it's like. I can do that. And like, no, there's a lot of things you don't know. Like, you didn't look for like the sore neck, which could indicate meningitis, when you thought someone had a cold, because you didn't know what you didn't know. So you have to be trained. And I'm not saying someone has to get a master's degree, but you've got to be able to go through an interview like that. So while you may be able to, with some outside experience, get a job in instructional design, if you want to have a really good career and move to different companies, especially get on like a successful instructional design team at a big company, you're going to really have to be able to go through those interviews and answer those questions. And that's not going to happen if you don't have that basic foundation of knowledge. So there are a bunch of different ways to get that. That's not really what I'm telling you. I just know the master's degree is the easiest way, obviously, the most traditional way. Those are the people you're competing with. So, how do you get into the field? That's how you start. You have to find how you're going to get those competencies, how you're going to build that knowledge. And you have to also make sure you're getting experience. So you can't just like get a master's degree where there's no internships or anything like that. And you can't just go out and start doing some projects either. It's a blend of those two things. My advice is to find a master's degree that is a program that is a blend of those things to prepare you to be successful. There's a reason that my program, I have companies calling us and asking us for all of our graduates every semester. There's a reason why our salaries are higher. There's a reason why I say we have a 99% job hiring rate upon graduation. And that 1% is like some faculty members who went through who never wanted to be an instructional designer. They just wanted to learn about course design or something like that. I have no problem getting students jobs. So, when I hear like how I can't find a job, I can't find this, I'm thinking, what's going on? What is happening? So you have to start to think about that kind of stuff. If you're having issues, you have to figure out, well, what's going on? Why is my resume not strong enough? What is it about my interview that is not good? I mean, maybe you're just not good with people when you're having a bad interview, but a lot of times it's that you can't answer the questions correctly. You're not answering right. You're not able to talk through how you would really design and develop a course, different strategies you would use, the process, especially that front end or evaluation process and stuff like that, things that are becoming more and more popular and needed in the field. So those are the biggest issues. A lot of people don't understand our field, so they want to be an instructional designer, or they want to hire an instructional designer, but they're not sure what an instructional designer really is and all the components about it. They might think it's just developing PowerPoint presentations or developing Articulate or Captivate presentations. I get people that want to come into the field and, they want to come into a project and they have a solution before they've even talked to the client. They know the client needs training and they're like, we're going to do this in Articulate. They have like this. They know what software they're going to use. They can tell me everything about it, and they haven't even heard the problem yet. No, you can't do that. You've got to know what the problem is and recommend. There are multiple different kinds of solutions. I can recommend, simulations to simple Captivate stuff to even simpler PowerPoint. So, you have to really understand the field and know what you're getting into, because you don't want to end up on the other side as the interviewee and I'm interviewing you with someone who really knows the field and is going to ask you these tough questions, and you're just going to sit there like, I can't answer any of this. And it's going to be like, well, why did you apply for this position? You got to have that competency, that base of knowledge before you really decide you want to get into the field. So my suggestions for people starting out is to really do your research. Take your time, think about it. Find a program that combines that work experience, and some kind of degree-based knowledge that's going to help you get a job, and find a place that's in demand. There are companies calling me, so make sure if you're going to a program, make sure there are companies calling them. Big companies with good reputations and stuff, because that's super important for you if you're just trying to get out into the field. Thank you.